Alright, listen up. If you've ever felt that pit in your stomach, that gnawing doubt, that whisper of fear telling you you're not enough, that you're just another pawn in someone else's game, especially when it comes to women in the ruthless arena of relationships, then this is for you. You're tired of being walked over, of feeling like a chump, of watching others effortlessly command respect while you're left scrambling for crumbs. The truth, most men are stuck in a default mode of weakness, a pathetic state of emotional servitude. They hesitate, they plead, they hope, and in this brutal game, hope is a strategy for losers. They get played, manipulated, and ultimately discarded. This isn't about being nice or understanding. It's about power, about reclaiming what's inherently yours. If you're done being the beta, done being the doormat, done watching your worth crumble because you lack the fangs to bite back, then stay locked in. Because by the end of this, you won't just be confident, you'll be dangerously so. You'll understand the true Machiavelli principles of the mental game. The cold, hard truths that separate the men who lead from the boys who follow. This isn't a pep talk, it's a strategic download. Ignore it at your own peril. Your choice: remain a puppet, or become the master of your own domain. Hesitation, my friends, is not just a symptom. It is the disease. It's the gaping wound through which your power bleeds out, leaving you vulnerable to every predator in the jungle. Think of it, that moment you second-guess yourself, that micro-pause before you speak your mind, that delay in taking decisive action, that's the chink in your armor. It screams insecurity, broadcasts your lack of conviction, and signals to the world that you are an easy target for manipulation. This isn't just about external actions, it's an internal battle, a mental game where your own doubts are the enemy agents, sabotaging your every move. Without rock-solid emotional control, you are a ship without a rudder, tossed by every passing whim, every external pressure. The man who hesitates is the man who is perpetually reactive, always responding to the moves of others instead of dictating his own. He is the one constantly seeking validation, permission, and acceptance, instead of asserting his will. This pathetic posture instantly diminishes your perceived value, stripping you of respect in the eyes of others, particularly women who are instinctively drawn to strength and decisive action. They don't want a project, they want a pillar. They want a high-value man who commands, not one who equips. This is where confidence isn't just a desirable trait, it's your primary weapon, a masculine strategy for dominance in any interaction. Consider the historical architects of influence. The masters like Machiavelli. Their genius lay not in brute force, but in understanding human nature, recognizing the tells of weakness, and exploiting them. Hesitation is the loudest tell. When you hesitate, you are effectively handing over the reins, inviting others to take charge, to dictate terms, to exploit your indecision. But when you move with unflinching certainty, you project an aura of invincibility. You are signaling that you are not to be trifled with, that your resolve is ironclad, that your decisions are absolute. This isn't about arrogance, it's about strategic presence. It's about leveraging your internal state to control external outcomes. Confidence, then, is the psychological deterrent, the invisible force field that repels attempts at subversion and demands deference. It is the silent declaration that you are the architect of your own reality, not merely a character in someone else's play. It's the ability to walk into any room, face any challenge, and engage with any woman, not with a plea, but with a statement of intent, an unshakable belief in your own inherent worth and capacity. This kind of conviction doesn't just attract, it compels. It doesn't just gain attention, it commands it. This is the bedrock of true power, a power that stems from absolute emotional control and a mastery of the mental game. But what is it, precisely, that makes a man hesitate in the first place? What are the insidious roots of this debilitating weakness? The insidious roots of this debilitating weakness are not genetic, nor are they inherent to the masculine spirit. They are, in fact, meticulously engineered. For generations, society has engaged in a subtle but pervasive campaign of psychological warfare against the very essence of masculine autonomy. From childhood, you were systematically conditioned to be a good boy, to play nice, to not make waves. You were taught that external approval was the ultimate currency, that conformity was the path to belonging, and that asserting your will too strongly was selfish or aggressive. This is the origin of the inner servant, a deeply ingrained psychological construct that prioritizes the comfort and validation of others over your own truth and desires. It's a masterclass in manipulation, subtly eroding your innate sense of power and replacing it with a subservient posture. This isn't about fostering empathy, it's about control. It's about creating compliant individuals who are easily managed, predictable, and, crucially, less threatening to the established order. This pervasive social conditioning is the ultimate mental game played against you. It weaponizes your desire for connection and turns it into a mechanism for self-diminishment. Every time you were told to apologize for merely existing, to share when you didn't want to, or to think of others first at the expense of your own needs, a new link was forged in the chains binding your sovereign self. This programming attacks your inherent capacity for emotional control, replacing it with a reflexive need for external validation, turning you into a reactor rather than an initiator. The consequence, you hesitate not because you lack courage, but because the inner servant whispers doubts, warns of potential disapproval, and fears the imagined fallout of decisive action. It's the voice that makes you second-guess your instincts, that pushes you to compromise your boundaries, and that compels you to seek permission rather than assert authority. This is the antithesis of a true masculine strategy. A man operating from this place will never command genuine respect, because he is unconsciously signaling that his value is negotiable, dependent on others' whims. He becomes an active participant in his own subjugation, perpetually striving to earn worth that is already his by birthright. This programmed deferment is what separates the common man from the high-value man who understands that true authority comes from within, not from external consensus. This continuous assault on your self-sovereignty has left many men feeling perpetually on the defensive, navigating life like an emotional chess match where they are always reacting to their opponent's moves. They are stuck in a loop of seeking validation, a stark contrast to the principles espoused by strategic thinkers like Machiavelli, who understood that true influence comes from a position of strength, not supplication. The inner servant keeps you trapped in this reactive state, constantly measuring your worth by external metrics. But how do you identify the specific chains of this conditioning within yourself, and more importantly, how do you systematically dismantle them? The inner servant manifests as that incessant urge to fill silences, to over-explain, and to unconsciously seek validation in every utterance. It's the immediate apology for a perceived slight, the self-deprecating humor used as a shield. This pervasive surrender of your conversational space is the first chain to identify. It's a clear tell, signaling a lack of inherent authority, a defensive mental game rather than an assertive position. The first weapon against this ingrained subservience is strategic silence. It's not empty quiet, it's a deliberate act of power, a calculated pause that compels the other party to lean in, to anticipate, to reveal their own discomfort or hidden agenda. Most men, driven by the inner servant, rush to fill any void, terrified of awkwardness. This fear is your weakness. A high-value man understands that silence, wielded correctly, is a potent form of emotional control. It denies others immediate gratification, forcing them to confront their own expectations and insecurities. It creates a vacuum they instinctively try to fill, often revealing true motives or a desperate need for your approval. This isn't mere withholding. It's an application of Machiavellian principles to interpersonal dynamics, observing, influencing, and asserting your presence without a single word. When you do speak, every word must be a statement of intent, not a request for validation. Eliminate qualifiers like I think, maybe, just speak in declarative sentences. Your voice should carry weight, not apology. This isn't about arrogance. It's about owning your perspective, demonstrating an unwavering internal locus of control. This directness, coupled with strategic silence, reshapes the conversational landscape. It forces others to approach you with respect, because they sense an unshakable presence. They perceive a man not easily swayed, whose decisions aren't up for debate, who operates from inherent power. This disciplined communication is a fundamental component of a true masculine strategy. Some might label this manipulation, but is it manipulation to refuse to be manipulated? To reclaim your inherent worth and assert your boundaries? This is not deceit. It's recalibrating the scales of influence. It's ensuring your interactions aren't dictated by others' unspoken demands or your own conditioned insecurities. It's leveraging unseen forces of human psychology to establish equilibrium, ensuring you are heard, respected, not merely tolerated. It's recognizing every interaction as a subtle negotiation, and a skilled negotiator understands the mental game at play. To master this, you must first master yourself, specifically your impulse to over-explain or seek external validation. Mastering your voice and your silence, however, is just one facet of this strategic recalibration. What happens when these principles are applied, not just to your words, but to your very presence, shaping how others perceive your value before you even utter a sound? The very architecture of your body is a silent declaration of intent. Before you speak, before you act, your posture broadcasts your internal state, your perceived standing, and your willingness to engage in the constant subtle dance of social hierarchy. This is where the physical meets the psychological, where your inner power finds its external manifestation. Think of it as a physical masculine strategy, a nonverbal assertion of territory. A slumped back, averted gaze, or fidgeting hands scream insecurity, signaling vulnerability, inviting others to dominate the interaction. This is the antithesis of the high-value man. Conversely, a man who stands tall, shoulders back, chest open, eyes steady and direct, he communicates an unyielding self. He takes up space, not aggressively, but with an intrinsic right to exist prominently. This isn't about puffed-up arrogance. It's about embodying emotional control, projecting a calm, unshakable core. It's the physical manifestation of an uncompromised will. This posture signals a lack of fear, an internal fortitude that makes others pause. They sense a man who is comfortable in his own skin, who holds his own frame, and who is not easily intimidated or swayed. This physical presence automatically commands respect. This isn't merely about good ergonomics, it's about psychological warfare waged through your very form. It's understanding that perception is reality in the social arena. Just as Machiavelli observed the importance of appearing powerful, even if one isn't always so, your physical presentation is a crucial component of this mental game. It creates an aura of unapproachable strength, subtly altering the power dynamics in any room you enter. When you walk into a space, are you shrinking into the background or asserting your right to occupy it fully? Are you inviting challenge or commanding deference? This is not a form of manipulation in the deceptive sense, but rather a transparent projection of your true internal state or the state you wish to cultivate. By consciously adopting this dominant posture, you begin to rewire your own internal dialogue, reinforcing the very qualities you wish to embody. It's a feedback loop. The body influences the mind, and the mind influences the body. When you stand like a man of power, you begin to feel like one. When you feel like one, others perceive you as one and treat you accordingly. This isn't about faking it until you make it. It's about embodying the principles of strength and conviction until they become an inherent part of your being. It's about radiating an unshakable inner frame, making your physical presence a force multiplier for your overall influence. This cultivation of an undeniable physical presence is a critical, yet often overlooked, layer in the complete masculine strategy of dominance. But what happens when this deliberate projection of self-assured power faces the unexpected? When the mental game takes a sudden turn into unforeseen territory? When the board shifts in this emotional chess match? When external forces attempt to rattle your cage? This is where true emotional control becomes the ultimate weapon. It's not about suppressing feeling, but about mastering your reactions. Denying your adversaries the satisfaction of seeing you flinch. A man whose emotional state can be easily swayed, whose buttons can be pushed at will, is a man whose power is inherently conditional. He becomes a puppet in the hands of others, predictable and vulnerable. This is precisely why a profound understanding of inner discipline, akin to the principles Machiavelli espoused regarding the maintenance of state, applies directly to the maintenance of self. Just as a prince must control the perception of his subjects, a high-value man must control the perception of his own emotional landscape, not just for others, but for himself. To be psychologically unreachable means you operate from a place of unshakable calm, even amidst the storm. It means external provocations, slights, or even outright attacks merely glance off you. Your internal frame remains undisturbed. This is not about a cold, unfeeling stoicism, but rather the strategic deployment of your emotional energy. You choose what impacts you, and more importantly, what doesn't. This level of mastery is the antithesis of reactive behavior, which is a telltale sign of a lack of inner power. When you can remain impassive, or even amused, in the face of another's attempt at manipulation, you effectively neutralize their agenda. You strip them of their leverage. This earns you genuine respect because it signals an internal strength that cannot be bought, sold, or broken. This isn't merely a defensive posture, it's a proactive masculine strategy for dominance. By demonstrating this profound emotional control, you communicate an unassailable inner world. You become an enigma to those who rely on emotional triggers to gain an advantage. They can't play their usual mental game with you because you've moved beyond the board. They understand. This resilience isn't developed by accident. It's forged through deliberate practice, through exposing yourself to discomfort and consciously choosing your response. It's about recognizing the psychological ploys others deploy and refusing to engage on their terms. But what specific tools do you need to build this impenetrable fortress of the mind, and how do you deploy them when the pressure is truly on? The impenetrable fortress of the mind isn't built on avoiding battle, but on mastering the art of psychological warfare when direct engagement is unavoidable. The first critical tool in your arsenal, especially when facing something as personally charged as rejection, is the immediate, non-negotiable deployment of absolute emotional control. Most men crumble, their ego bruised, their self plummeting at the slightest hint of being unwanted or unchosen. This is precisely where your training distinguishes you. Rejection, in this arena, is not a judgment on your inherent value, but information. It's a data point. Like a master strategist, you don't react to data with emotional outbursts, you analyze it. Consider the wisdom of Machiavelli. Every event, every interaction, every perceived setback holds strategic utility for the discerning mind. Rejection isn't an end, it's a diagnostic. Did you misread the landscape? Was your approach flawed, or was the other party simply not aligned with your trajectory? Perhaps operating from a place of insecurity or their own limitations. This is the core of the mental game, transforming what most perceive as a debilitating blow into a valuable insight. When a woman rejects you, or an opportunity closes, a lesser man collapses into self-doubt, inviting further manipulation by others who sense his vulnerability. A high-value man, however, observes, dissects, and extracts the lesson. He understands that his inner power remains untouched unless he himself grants permission for it to be eroded. This reframe earns genuine respect. Others watch how you handle adversity. If you remain composed, unwavering, and even intellectually curious in the face of a perceived slight, you communicate an unshakable inner core. This isn't coldness. It's a strategic disengagement from trivial ego battles. It's a calculated decision not to invest emotional energy in outcomes beyond your control, but rather to focus on what you can control, your response and your subsequent actions. This is a fundamental pillar of masculine strategy. You don't chase, you assess, you don't beg, you learn. The objective is not to avoid rejection, but to weaponize it, turning every no into a clearer understanding of the optimal path forward. It's about maintaining your frame, your worth, and your trajectory, regardless of external validation. You realize that sometimes rejection is merely a redirection, a higher intelligence guiding you away from paths not meant for your ultimate ascent. But what happens when the deepest rejections come not from the outside world, but from within, from your own self? So, I ask you, have you ever been so caught in an external approval loop that you didn't even notice the subtle manipulation of your own desires, costing you true power? This isn't just about surface-level emotional control. It's the core of the mental game every high-value man must master to command genuine respect. If you're ready to unlock the profound masculine strategy that would make even Machiavelli nod in approval, then subscribe to the channel right now and activate the notification bell. Only then will you continue to learn the raw, unvarnished insights most men will never discover. For more on fortifying your inner world, check out this video next. Stay sharp.